Hi everyone, I'm Ava and I'm an American living in the Netherlands with my Dutch girlfriend. And at the beginning of this year, beginning of 2021, we decided that it was time for us to buy our very first place here in this wonderful tiny country. Hey, I know it was an ambitious New Year's resolution, but I mean, some people decide they're gonna work out more. Wait, that was also me. What was I thinking? 2021 is the year of failed goals. Also the year I completely forget about because what happened in 2020. Anyway, this video is about our home buying flop here in the Netherlands. And we wanted to share this story because firstly, we've only ever heard success stories about buying a house in the Netherlands in this crazy market. For those of you who don't know, the housing market is kind of insane all over the world right now, but in the Netherlands, it's definitely particularly bad. But we've only ever heard success stories of people saying things like, hey, you know what, just hang in there because my brother-in-law's third cousin's best friend went to 50 viewings, saw 50 places, and then in the end, it worked out for them, so it's gonna work out for you. That was reason one for wanting to share a story. And by we and our story, I mean, my girlfriend's not here. I'm going to be speaking on her behalf. And hey, that's what she gets for not wanting to be on these videos. I get to decide what I tell you. Anyway, reason two, if you already own a place in the Netherlands, first of all, congratulations. And maybe our story will make you feel good about yourself. Happy to oblige there. And reason number three, of course, is in case you just find this interesting to hear. Happy to provide the entertainment and, maybe you enjoy listening to other people's struggles. Just kidding. I'm sure you're just interested in learning about the housing market and what it's like for people buying their home in these crazy, tumultuous times. Oh, that's so not fun. Don't know why I decided to make this video. Anyway, no, I'm going to stick to it and share the story. So, moving on to the next part, which is why we wanted to buy a home in the first place. Now, before I go into that, I do want to say that I recognize that buying a home and the struggles associated with it are very much a luxury problem. We're very lucky to be able to even consider that in the first place. So definitely recognize that. But with that said, this is what we went through and this is the story. So the very first and honestly the biggest reason we wanted to start this home buying process was because we wanted to move to a slightly bigger place. Our current place is very nice. I'm a fan of the brick wall, for instance, but it's a bit small for us right now because it's a 1-bedroom/2-room apartment and working from home has been a bit tricky. Fun fact, here in the Netherlands, they actually like to advertise the number of rooms a place has as opposed to the number of bedrooms. So a 1-bedroom apartment will be advertised as a 2-room apartment. Now, so the word for that in Dutch is tweekamer appartement if you're not Dutch. Helpful to know. Now, if you're looking for 2 bedrooms, what you might expect to look for is a 3-kamer apartment, a 3-room apartment. And definitely that's true. If you look for those, you often get 2 bedrooms, but you may also end up with 1 bedroom because sometimes the living room is split up into 2. So that's just something to be aware of. Anyway, so back to why we wanted to do that. We just wanted a slightly bigger place. And the reason we thought buying was the way to do that was because we had a little bit of savings, and blowing your savings on something like a roof over your head sounds pretty sensible. So we thought, let's go ahead with it. So that was the background, and let's get into the search, the exciting part. What were all the things we were looking for? Well, we kind of had a few things listed out. And the first thing that was important to us was to stay in Utrecht. We thought, let's narrow our search and stick to the city we live in now and that we love. And we thought, why don't we just look for any place that's a 15-minute bike ride from Utrecht Central Station. That had to do with personal reasons for work, etc., commuting for both of us. But that said, if you've ever visited Utrecht, you will know that's basically all of Utrecht. So the next thing was that we were looking for either a house or an apartment. So it didn't matter to us what kind of a place it was. We just wanted a place. And we thought we would like 3 bedrooms if we were gonna buy and think about it long term, as opposed to 2 bedrooms, even though 2 bedrooms is okay for us in the short term, because maybe in the future we want to expand our family, get more kittens, and maybe the kittens would need a bedroom, So we were doing this for the kittens really. So Okay, and besides the kittens and the 3 bedrooms, we wanted some kind of outdoor area. Nothing too crazy. A small balcony would have been totally fine, and that would be great actually. So that was definitely on our wish list. And then we were looking at existing buildings and not newly built buildings. That was a choice we made. And then finally, while we were willing to put in a lot of work in the place that we got, we ruled out complete fixer-uppers. That just seemed like too big a project for us. But again, we were willing to put in a lot of work. Let's talk about our house search process and how we went about doing this. So the first thing we did was we had an adviesgesprek with a bank because we did have our own ideas about our budget and what kind of mortgage we could get, but we also wanted to double check. So you could do this for free with a bank or another mortgage advisor, and that's what we did. And we kind of got a sense of what kind of mortgage we would be able to get. So that was how we decided what we could buy, or how we went about figuring out what we could buy. And how we went about finding the places was, of course, through Funda. Like everybody else, we started out on the motherboard of real estate here in the Netherlands. So we would go onto Funda, put in whatever criteria we had to look at our place. This was back in January. This is what very many people do when they're starting out. That's completely uninteresting. What is interesting is how quickly we realized that this was completely pointless and that Funda was going to do us no favors. Let me explain. This point is actually tied into how quickly we realized we needed a realtor to help us buy a place. Starting with our very first viewing in January, where we did find a place that we wanted to look at through Funda, and we thought, let's go test the waters and check it out. It was our very first place. We were extremely excited. And honestly, from the moment we walked in, the selling realtor, so the listing agent who was there, he looked at us and said, do you have an aankoopmakelaar? Which is the Dutch word for a realtor who would help us buy a place. And it was very clear from the moment we walked in that we were not serious enough candidates if we didn't come in with an aankoopmakelaar. And he told us so. So that was nice of him. He tried to help us out by saying, look, if I'm being honest from my perspective, if you don't have an aankoopmakelaar, I'm not going to take you that seriously. So, okay, there's that Dutch directness playing in. But that was reason number one. We thought, okay, I guess we need a realtor real quick. The next reason, if reason number one wasn't reason enough, for us to get a realtor has to do with the pointlessness of Funda that I mentioned. And that is that we couldn't even get viewings because over the last few months, and especially last year and a half, I think as a whole, if you wanted to go view a place, there were COVID measures in place so that there were only a few viewing spots available. And you actually had to get a spot, a reservation to go see a place. And one morning we saw a place we liked on Funda, and we saw this place at like 8 a.m. in the morning, and we really wanted to go view it. So we called the listing agent at 9 a.m. The moment they opened, the place had just come up that morning. And they told us that all the viewing spots were already given to their colleagues who were other realtors. So we couldn't go view the place because we were just not high on the priority list. And I talked about thing number one and thing number two. There is also a thing number three. Again, as if one and then two aren't reasons enough. Thing number three was that we had viewings scheduled for places that we were able to get viewings for. And, you know, in January, February, we had a couple of places lined up. This is pre-realtor. And then we got a call the day before we were going to view one of these places that we were excited about. And the call was around, I'm not kidding, 10 p.m. at night. And mind you, we were going to go view the place the next day at like 9 a.m. or something. And they call us at 10 p.m. at night and tell us that they had to cancel our viewing because the place had already been sold. And this was, I'm just gonna tell you right now, the first of a few that happened afterwards too. At that point, we thought we're gonna get a realtor, and not to mention that it's also our first time buying a home, so that was another really great reason to sign on a realtor. And for the record, that was a great decision. The realtors we worked with were fantastic. They were so knowledgeable and they completely filled in the gaps that we needed them to fill. We would go into a place and they would point out all the goods and the bads. It wasn't that they were just always excited about the places we went to see. They really very much had our interests in mind. So the realtors we worked with were awesome, and that was the upside. The downside, of course, is that now we became part of the problem because pre-realtor, we were struggling, and then we thought, aha, now that we have a realtor, we're part of the inner circle, and it definitely has to work out now, right? We are definitely going to be able to buy our dream home. Spoiler alert, as you can tell from the beginning of this video and the title, it did not, my friends, it did not. But anyway, we were definitely part of the problem by doing this. Also, we'll add here that me and my girlfriend did try to cover all of our bases. So in addition to a realtor, we then thought if we're making such a big purchase, we should probably get a mortgage advisor as well to just help us out with that and really give us good financial advice. So while we were first-time home buyers, we did try to get together a small team of people who would help us through this process. So we were not in it alone. Well, sometimes in life you can prepare, try to set yourself up for success, and you're still going to end up with a big old flop. So that was in this case. We had a realtor, we had a mortgage advisor, we had our budget sheets, we went to webinars. We were set, right? Like it had to work out now. It was going to be great. We're gonna have this great experience. We're gonna find our dream home. So what went wrong? I can answer this for you in one word: overbidding. And the longer story has some details in it. Here are some of the reasons. Try to include as many as possible, but I also don't want to go off on a long tirade of like all the things that went wrong. But here is one, and that has to do with the viewing. So as I alluded to earlier, we couldn't take it for granted that we would get a viewing for a place we wanted to see. And even after we got a realtor, we became part of this secret group where all the postings would come up before they were put on Funda for the world to see. So that was the bonus of getting a realtor and using their network. But of course, many other people were doing the same thing. So this gave us some kind of advantage over people who were just starting out without a realtor. But we couldn't get a viewing even when we were part of this secret group. So sometimes we would get a notification. And in the beginning, when we didn't have too much experience with this, we would take a little bit of time to evaluate whether or not we wanted to go view a place. There was one time where we responded 16 minutes after the posting came up in this secret group or whatever. And then 16 minutes after we responded saying we wanted a viewing, we got the response saying that all the viewings were fully booked. 16 minutes after this listing came up on this so-called secret group. So I don't even know what to say. Also important to mention here that you can't actually pick the time you would like to go see the place. So if you have a meeting for work, that's too bad. You basically just get a time slot from the realtor saying, here's the time the viewing is scheduled for, and if you can't make it, too bad. So that also added a little bit of stress factor to just planning the viewings. So all of that said, after all the plannings and cancellations, etc., we did end up going to 18 viewings, and we bid on 6 of the places that we saw. So 1 in 3. And these places were a varying distance from Utrecht Station. So to give you an idea of location, some of these places were 7 or 8 minutes of a bike ride away. Other places were a full 15-minute bike ride away. So, varies a bit. And here's the part can't believe I'm sharing this. Here's the part that's freaking crazy. The lowest we overbid on a place, because you basically almost always, unless the place is a complete fixer-upper, will be overbidding on a place in this market, at least in Utrecht. We have not experienced otherwise. Anyway, the lowest we overbid on one of these 6 places was 19.24% on the asking price. And the highest we overbid on one of these 6 places was 25.14% on the asking price. I can't believe I'm saying these percentages out loud. They are absolutely ridiculous. And guess what? We didn't get these places. So while we thought we were doing something completely insane, we were overbidding like crazy, other people went crazier, overbid even more. On the place that we bid the highest, 25.14%, there was There were someones, I know for that place, there were multiple people who overbid way, way more. So that should tell you how ridiculous the Dutch housing market is right now. And the thing is, you get caught up in all of this because it feels like a game. Like when you're in it, it really feels like you're doing the right thing. Everybody around you is doing it. You have experts who are advising you on what you need to bid on a certain place if you want your bid to be considered seriously, or you want a shot at having the place. Now, if you thought all of the overbidding was bad, wait till I tell you this. We were bidding without voorbehoud van financiering. Now, voorbehoud van financiering is a clause when you place your bid, or it's this condition on your bid, where your bid is valid insofar as you can get the mortgage. But we were basically told to drop that clause. So that means that we are taking full financial responsibility for our bid and place our bid without it, which coupled with the crazy amounts of overbidding just sounds really ridiculous. But we were told that if we did not drop the voorbehoud van financiering clause, we basically wouldn't get the place. And what that means, the financial implications of dropping that clause is, if your bid is accepted and everything is formalized and you don't get the mortgage, you need to pay 10% to the owner of the house. That's on you. So again, if this sounds silly, just know that when you're in it, it does not feel that silly because everyone else around you is doing the same thing. So after all of that, surprise, surprise, we decided to stop. Now, maybe to some of you, after hearing this story, you're thinking, oh, but what if you kept going? And to others, you're like, no, this sounds crazy. It's a good thing you're stopping. Well, for us, we've decided to stop. And here's why. We felt like this was starting to become a little bit of a game, first of all, where we were making decisions based on the adrenaline rush or based on how stressful everything was, as opposed to really being able to, because we just could not take the time we needed to evaluate our decision, think about a place, and so on. The market is also crazy, and we did want to succeed in our home searching, home buying process. So we went along with the flow, but we found that as we went along in our search, we were making compromises, a lot of compromises on what we wanted. So we started out seeing 3 bedrooms, but we actually went to see a lot of 2 bedrooms. So we even bid on places that had 2 bedrooms instead of 3. We were making these kinds of compromises on what we wanted from a place. And well, compromise is part of the deal, of course, because no place is perfect. But if you think about the fact that you need to make such drastic changes to your search criteria, then maybe you need to reassess and reevaluate. So we did think, okay, let's take a step back and reassess. And in the reassessment, we thought maybe we should just stop with the process for now because things are a bit crazy. And also we were completely stressed. And because of how stressful the process was and how mentally and emotionally draining it was, the 2 of us were kind of fighting more than we normally do. And all we could talk about was the damn house and looking for, our future place. And we forgot to live in the present. So that was no fun. And not to mention that each time you bid on a place, you also then start dreaming a little. Like you think about what color you're gonna paint the walls, what furniture you can bring, what new furniture you're gonna get to add to the furniture you already have, what the neighbors will be like. Oh my God, we saw a neighbor with a cat. Is that a queer couple? Oh my God, that would be amazing. So you start dreaming a little, and that's all, fine and good if it's for 1 or 2 places, but afterwards it really, again, starts taking a toll on you. So in addition to it not being fun, actually practically what that led to and what ended up happening was that we would go see certain places that we just weren't excited about, and we couldn't figure out whether we were trying to protect ourselves from disappointment or if we just weren't that enthused by the place. So we also weren't able to judge a place anymore because we just were trying to protect ourselves from being disappointed. And maybe we just weren't excited about these places because we were making so many compromises. But we can't tell you because that's just the point we were at. Okay, my friends, I am not one to end on a negative note, so I want to talk about what is next for us. When I started this video, I told you about why we wanted to start our house search process, our home buying process. It was because we wanted a slightly bigger place, and we can still do that. We don't need too much space for now, but what we would really like is a tiny room besides our main bedroom. So an extra tiny room, a 3-kamer apartment with hopefully 2 bedrooms, so the second one can be very small. Maybe in Utrecht, maybe in a different city like Amsterdam, maybe in a completely different city where we don't know anybody. So anyway, we're completely open. Buying is definitely on hold for us for the time being, but we'll see what's in store over the next couple of years. If we've learned anything from this whole process, honestly, the moral of the story is to just live in the present. We were too busy dreaming about our future home that we didn't find ourselves enjoying what we have, and we have a lot. So we also learned to count our blessings and just be happy and enjoy where we are in the present moment, because sometimes life can be beautiful.